Hello and welcome to Hindustan Times. I'm Aditi Prasad and you're watching Poll Bazi. And today we focus on Telangana, India's youngest state, which goes to polls on November 30th. Pollsters, of course, are predicting a nail-biting battle between the ruling BRS and the Congress, with BJP, of course, playing a X role, which we will come to during the show. What is that role that BJP is going to be playing? So what is at stake for the major parties in Telangana? What are the issues that Telangana will vote for, and what are the implications of the Telangana polls on the battle for 2024? To discuss all this and more, we are joined by senior journalist Soma Sekar Mulugu and Asaya Sekar. We're also joined by T.S. Sudhir, senior journalist, and somebody that I've worked with for some time. So it'll be great to hear, and I'm going to hear from him after a long time. And of course, we're joined by Manu Sharma, psychologist and political scientist. Now, incumbent Chief Minister K. Chandrashekar Rao is facing anti-incumbency and a tough battle from a very, very rejuvenated Congress so far. That's what we're hearing from the ground. But of course, I'm going to come to you, Sudhir, first up, and then go in a round robin style with it to everyone as to what quick comments from you on your prediction for the state.
Well, I'm neither a psephologist like Manu Sharma nor an astrologer. So I wouldn't stick my neck out and say X is winning or Y is winning. But it's an interesting election. And I would say this election is probably more interesting than the ones in Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, and Chhattisgarh because they were essentially bipolar elections, Congress versus the BJP. But here, the Congress versus the BRS versus the BJP makes this entire contest an extremely riveting one, more riveting than the other three state elections. What is at stake? The 9.5 years, it's a report card on 9.5 years of KCR rule. So I see this entire election as a vote which will be either pro KCR or anti KCR. Do I like what he has done in the last 9.5 years, especially the last 5 years since 2018? Or do I think he needs to be changed with either the Congress or the BJP? That's pretty much a call that the voters have to take. As part of the quick opening point, I want to mention that I see as part of my traveling that there is a clear urban-rural divide. In the urban pockets, the Congress doesn't seem to be extremely strong, even though Telangana is a highly urbanized state. But I'm talking specifically also in terms of Hyderabad, where Congress doesn't really seem to be a political force to reckon with. But when we go into rural Telangana, that's where the Congress seems to be getting much better. Again, there in rural Telangana, there seems to be a divide between people who have benefited from one or the other of the schemes of the KCR government and therefore would want to renew his tenure by another 5 years. And there are others who have not benefited in any way and would think that, oh, the promises made by the Congress seem much more enticing. So why not give them a chance? So there's also the fatigue factor. KCR, by renominating almost 90% of his MLAs, has actually it has ensured that the anti-incumbency factor is playing out in a big way against those MLAs, many of them perceived to be either arrogant, corrupt, or inaccessible. And that is also playing out because at the end of the day, I'm not bothered about whether the GSDP of the state, my vote is not going to depend on whether the GSDP of the state has gone up by X% or Y%. I'm going to vote based on whether I like this MLA, whether I like this chief minister, whether this government has done anything specifically for me or my family as an individual. And I think that's going to determine the vote largely.
Okay, so you're not sticking your neck out and going with one or the other. You've given me a thing, but come November 30th, actually come December 3rd, what do you think is going to be the final verdict? Yeah, and again, I'm not asking you to stargaze, but in your what is your gut tell you, because
I
you've been
think it's a very close. I think it's a very close election. I think the Congress has fought this election very well. The major difference between 2018, where the wind seemed to be very clearly blowing in KCR's favor, was because he had managed to stitch together a narrative saying Chandrababu Naidu is the villain of the piece. If the Mahakutami of the Congress and the TDP comes to power in 2018, that would mean that Hyderabad and Telangana would be ruled by the people from Andhra Pradesh. That narrative struck a chord with the voters of Telangana 5 years ago. This time, the big problem for KCR has been that he has not been able to stitch together a narrative effectively and efficiently before the voters. And Congress, led by a rather aggressive Revanth Reddy, has managed to kind of tell the people that, look, we deserve a chance after 10 years out of power. History also shows 10 years from 94 to 2004, the Telugu Desam, then the Congress and the TRS. So at least history in the two Telugu states shows that they seem to be in a mood for change after every decade.
Okay, Esai Sekhar, what's your perspective? Rahul Gandhi is also, of course, going to town, talking about the role of the Congress in the making of Telangana, something that the last 10 years KCR has banked on and benefited from. Do you think Congress stands a chance this time? What's your take?
As Sudhir just now said, it's a closely fought election, and the BJP, which was projecting itself as a challenger to the BRS in Telangana until May 2023, has suddenly lost its steam only after this Karnataka elections, where BJP lost its ground. And when it comes to Telangana, the BJP was actually, it is saying that they'll put a BC chief minister, and they removed a BC president in the state, and handed over the reins to a Reddy person who is also a union minister. There they have also given a quiet go-by to that one man, one post rule. And with all that, BJP has actually lost its sheen. But at the same time, when the elections were fast approaching, they suddenly started gaining ground, in the sense that they may, at best, they try to cut into the anti-incumbency vote, and that will incidentally and obliquely help the BRS. This is situation one. Situation two, Revanth Reddy is a rabble-rouser, and he has given us a certain momentum to the Congress campaign. But there are internal problems within the Congress, because out of 118 candidates fielded by the Congress, 43 candidates have earlier worked in different other parties, which is very common. But then on the eve of distribution of party tickets, 22 candidates who are immigrants into the Congress at this point in time were given tickets that gave an indication to the people that Congress is suffering from dearth of candidates. And out of these 22, 12 people have TDP moorings and Revanth Reddy's old pals. So Revanth Reddy is playing out a TDP template. Just now, as Sudhir said, KCR had used the Chandrababu Naidu Congress togetherness as the plank for 2018 election. They could have actually used the same thing if Revanth Reddy is given the power, or if the Congress is given the power. The remote control of Telangana administration would go into the hands of Chandrababu Naidu, and the same Andhra hegemony against which the Telangana flock had fought for close to, from 2001 to 2020, 2013. That 13-year-long struggle would go to waste. That narrative could have helped the BRS, but BRS is seriously harping on its performance and the deliverance of various schemes that were promised and that were also not promised. There are certain drawbacks which are, being termed as work in progress, like double bedroom houses and a few other schemes. Dalit Bandhu and all, their work in progress is what the BRS leaders are claiming. And as of now, as I see, in the overall situation, though it is a very closely fought contest, the Congress, because of the internal dissensions, a lot of people who were nursing the various constituencies were deprived of getting the party ticket, and they turned dissidents, and most of them have joined BRS without any specific assurance. So they might undercut the Congress party in that sense. And out of the 22 people who were given tickets by the Congress, fresh faces who are imported from other parties, they might turn truant if the difference between the Congress and the BRS is very thin. They might cross over to BRS because of the past experiences. So overall, I think whatever is the seat tally, KCR will form the government.
whatever the seat tally, KCR will form the government. You don't think the anti-incumbency, because what Sudhir spoke about, and Manu, I'm going to come to you with that.
Yeah, there is anti-incumbency about certain MLAs which KCR was aware even while distributing the tickets. But KCR was an early bird in that sense. He has announced the tickets by renominating 90% of his candidates. He is telling the people that I have confidence in my leaders whom I have chosen to contest in the state. Whereas Congress has changed the candidates even in the last minute, even on the last day of nominations. So this is being played out well by the BRS at individual constituencies where it has identified the places where candidates are facing anti-incumbency.
All right. So you are, unlike Sudhir, you are being
I am sticking
clairvoyant.
my neck out.
Yes, you are sticking your neck out. You're being clairvoyant and rooting for the BRS, it seems. And let me come to Manu. Manu, your sense of, you are a pathologist, you've seen opinion polls, you've spoken with people. What do you think is happening?
Well, okay. You see, the numbers prior to the embargo that kicks in, with the Model Code of Conduct, did suggest an edge for the BRS and the incumbent chief minister. However, I would like to just present what we call as the shaping analysis, just to clarify the lay of the land. So what we witnessed was that there is a deep sentiment of anti-incumbency in the state. That is, that people want to vote out, be it the local MLA or maybe the chief minister or the minister. They had, anti-incumbency at various levels. And obviously, the ruling party has moved in to counter that in the campaign. But what has happened between, let us say, last year in the run up to the election now is that back then, and especially prior to the Karnataka polls, BJP was developing as a pole of opposition, and it
Right.
was really looking serious in the state as a serious player. So what happened after the Karnataka defeat was, the tendency of the anti-incumbency vote to aggregate around the pole, that appears to be stronger in the opposition. That kind of gave way. So BJP started to, go back in the equation a bit, and the natural, beneficiary of that would obviously be Congress. So what happened was that Congress increasingly started to pull in those anti-incumbency votes. So that's the equation about, the anti-incumbency vote. But what about the current election? Where is it expected to go? So yes, BRS has a slight edge going into the polls prior to Model Code of Conduct. But the other thing is that Congress, if you look at its vote share from the previous election, it has to manage a relatively moderate-ish swing to get back into reckoning. And even if, let's say, the BRS holds on to most of its past vote share, but a slight negative vote share, especially, if it's peculiarly distributed, then we might see the election becoming quite interesting. And that is where Mr. T.S. Sudhir's, I think, analysis of not calling this out yet makes sense, because it could indeed be a very close election.
That's what I that's the sense that I get. A very nail biting election, a very nail biting battle. It's going to be between the BRS and the Congress. But tell me something, Sudhir. When you said that, I want to talk about, you talked about the welfare schemes to a large extent. Now, all these welfareism is a very key factor in all elections these days, and the KCR was, in fact, one of the first people, I think, who came up with this freebies, welfare freebies, money in the bank, etc., for the poor people, for people, of a certain economic status. How does this? He's obviously benefited for him for two successive terms. The third term looking a little tricky with competition from a very resurgent Congress. But Congress has also come out with its own set of freebies in these elections. And there is a problem about the delivery of some of these freebies, some of these welfare things from the BRS for the people. Can you take us through what the sentiment is, in what the challenges have been with this, with the welfareism, which KCR practices, and which all other parties have jumped on to very quickly in Telangana. But how does this play out, so to speak, in terms of actual? Because BRS is the only one facing anti-incumbency, because he's the one who's had to deliver this for the last 10 years, literally, with a very shaky exchequer, so to speak.
Yeah. For one, I don't really call them as freebies in the politics of South India. Unlike North India, this has been kind of dovetailed into a very robust kind of a welfare agenda from the times of MGR in Tamil Nadu, then NTR, and now under KCR here in Telangana. And many of the schemes have actually borne fruit in terms of being able to get money into the bank accounts directly as part of the DBT, the direct bank transfer, directly to the beneficiary. There have been success stories. For instance, just to point out two, for instance, the entire irrigation sector. Yes, there are allegations about the money and the corruption which has been made on in various irrigation projects, including Kaleshwaram. But the fact remains that today the Telangana of 2023 is far more green, far more well irrigated than what you would have seen in Telangana a decade ago. That has been one of the success stories. You no longer hear the kind of horrific farmer suicide stories from Telangana, like the way you heard about even 7 to 8 to 10 years ago. That has been one of the biggest success stories. The power sector, we used to in Hyderabad have about 4.5 hours of power cut every single day during Kiran Kumar Reddy's regime. No longer so. So people, the common man, has reason to be satisfied. The problem with the BRS is that it has also overpromised. For instance, the two-bedroom scheme. So anyone who has not been allotted a two-bedroom flat obviously is going to feel aggrieved. Anyone who has not got money under the Dalit Bandhu scheme is going to feel aggrieved. The tenant farmers amounting to about 22 lakh, they don't get any money. It is the landed farmer, about 66 to 70 lakh farmers. Those are the people who get 5,000 rupees per acre for the Kharif crop and another 5,000 for the Rabi crop. Now that landowner may be sitting in Hyderabad, in Dubai, in Mumbai, and may have nothing to do with farming, but he's the one who is getting the money into his bank account and not the person who is actually doing the farming, actually doing the agriculture on the land. So the tenant farmers have reason to be aggrieved. Now, how will all this play out at election time is what is going to determine the electoral future of BRS. Plus, there is also the perception game which both the BJP and the Congress is playing. Now, over the last 2 days, the Prime Minister has all the time in every speech referred to him as a farmhouse chief minister. So that whole perception of KCR being someone who does not go to the secretariat, at least he did not go till the new secretariat was constructed, functions out of his home or his farmhouse, is not seen as accessible. Forget the common man, sometimes not even to his MLAs. All that is adding to the perception of someone who is a bit feudal in his approach. And all these things will add to the decision which is made by the voter on November 30, whether he wants to vote for KCR or vote against him.
Okay, got you. I want to bring in Mr. Suma Sekhar into the conversation. He joined us late, and so I haven't been able to come to you. I want to talk to you, sir, about the rebel candidates, because rebel candidates are playing a key role in this election, as far as one can see. They are a very intriguing factor. Because all three major political parties, the BRS, the Congress, all the contenders who did not secure tickets are grappling with the issue of rebel candidates. Now, this presents a confounding conundrum, so to speak, for the parties, because and they have the potential to impact. How much of an impact will these rebel candidates have on particular seats and crucial assembly segments?
Well, so first of all, sorry for entering late, but to me, this election looks very, very exciting, and I feel that this election will be fought more on performance, more on delivery of promises, and also I think the advantages that one party had have also waned, like the Telangana sentiment is no longer, I think, visible now. And also in terms of anti-incumbency, it is just about picking up against the incumbent government in the last 3-4 months. So in that way, I see, this election would be a clear mandate on the performance of the KCR government for the last 10 years, whether they have delivered or the aspirations have been fulfilled or not, or the basic, nidulu, niyamakalu, and employment that they promised have been delivered. Now, coming to your question, if you look at in the last 2 elections, the TRS managed to get just 63 in the first election. And then they got in a lot of candidates from the Congress and other parties and bolstered their number. In 2019 again, they got in a lot of candidates who were from the other parties, and the TRS by nature, or the BRS, is a party of candidates from all other parties. So what now they will face perhaps is that in key constituencies where they have lost or they won by a few thousands of votes, these rebel candidates will play an important role. And given the problems or dissatisfaction within the MLAs in the TRS, BRS as is now called, so they will play a crucial part in creating problems for the party.
Okay, crucial part. You want to weigh in, Sudhir? I thought you were saying something. You were nodding your head very vigorously, so I just thought to you.
No. I mean, a brief point. As far as the rebel candidates, I mean, this is a part and parcel of every election. The BRS also had some rebel candidates, but they were able to manage it better because they had announced the tickets in the month of August itself. So they had sufficient time to ensure that this rebellion did not get out of hand. The Congress, because they got so many leaders from outside, many of them last minute imports from other parties. So they had to do a lot of accommodation. I would say that compared to the kind of ruckus that we have usually seen in the Congress party, this time they actually managed their differences more smoothly than what they have. I mean, in the previous years, we have seen during the days of United Andhra Pradesh, the Congress headquarters, Gandhi Bhavan, would be routinely burned down by people who were not getting tickets, by supporters of those who did not get tickets. This time, they seem to have managed it. Yes, there were differences. There are rebel candidates put up at a few places, but largely they have kind of managed to contain the trouble. There would be Trojan horses. There are leaders who have come out in the open and said that if the Congress does not hit the 60 mark, it's quite possible, like after 2014, like after 2018, many of them would make a beeline to the BRS.
Okay, many of them are likely to jump ship back. But before, I want to also talk about the BJP, the Bharatiya Janata Party. And Sudhir, let me start with you because I was reading a very nice opinion piece by you just earlier today, where you said the BJP may decide who wins Telangana, BRS or Congress. So BJP, of course, is a non-factor in terms of winning. We all know that they have a very small number of seats and a small support base there, but they do have a good vote share. The party polled almost 7% votes in the 2018 assembly elections, and then went on to a double digit, almost 20% 4 months later in the 2019 Lok Sabha elections. Sudhir, why do you say that the BJP is the one who's going to be deciding? Why don't you share that with our viewers?
Well, Aditi, if we were having this conversation in November 2022, we would have all agreed that BJP is going to be the party that is going to challenge the BRS.
Right.
In sporting terms, we always say that you should peak at the right time. The BJP peaked ahead of its time. And by May, post the Karnataka elections, it had kind of fizzled out due to a variety of reasons, a lot of mistakes that they made. Now, the Congress has been peaking from the month of August, September. So it seems to be ideally positioned. But still, the BJP could well decide who comes to power for the simple reason that in at least 30 constituencies, 15 of them where they are the ones who is challenging either the BRS or the Congress, especially in constituencies in northern part of Telangana, and another 15 where they are in a tight triangular contest. Now, which way these 30 contests go could well decide. I'm not saying that they are going to win a large number of seats, but if they do, or at least as they fancy they would, if they think that they would win about 15, they fancy that it could well be a hung Telangana assembly, in which case they could decide who would be the next chief minister of Telangana. But at this point in time, the BJP suffers from a lack of clarity in communication messaging. As I was saying, you had a BC Telangana party president Bandi Sanjay, he was replaced by Reddy, and now they have again gone back to saying that they will have a BC chief minister. So this kind, and there are many aspirants for that post again. So this kind of a confused communication messaging is what has kind of landed BJP in this kind of a position where they are not really seen as a contender for power, but also, but only as an also ran in this triangular race. But yes, in pockets in Hyderabad city, in pockets in, say, the old Adilabad district, constituencies like Mudol, Nirmal, both, those are constituencies where they could actually even win or at least put up a very good fight. And if they manage to reach that 10-12 mark, if they do, at the moment, I am not betting on them getting into double digits. But if they do, the BJP could emerge as some kind of a kingmaker in case of a hung assembly.
Okay, Sai Sekhar, your view on that in terms of, especially in terms of BJP's messaging, the exit of the backward caste candidate, backward caste leader from their grouping so close to the elections. What's the mixed messaging all about? Why? How did the BJP lose its obviously after Karnataka, there was a setback, but in Telangana, could you weigh in on how the BJP's mixed up its messaging?
Before answering your question, if I am permitted, I will respond to the reference of vote share by Banu and also the 2-bedroom houses thing and Raitu Bandhu scheme mentioned by Sudhir. Can I?
You can, please.
I'm not going to counter them. I am not going to counter them. I am just trying to. Yeah. See, the vote share of the Congress in 2018 was 28%, 2018 assembly elections. In the Lok Sabha elections, Congress vote share has come down to 24%. When the GHMC went to polls, the Congress vote share has dwindled to 7%. And after Revanth Reddy took over as the Congress president, the party has fought 3 by-elections, and in all the 3 places, they forfeited their deposit. This is the situation of the Congress. And from there, if they can really catapult to a position where they can challenge a 47% or 48% BRS is a doubtful thing. This is one. And second thing with regard to the double
BRS, but it's a BRS which is facing almost 2 terms of anti-incumbency also.
Yeah, that's there. That is there. But then second thing with regard to the double bedroom houses and Dalit Bandhu scheme, which Sudhir has mentioned, and the Raitu Bandhu. The Dalit Bandhu and double bedroom scheme have been a work in progress, and they have promised 8 lakh houses to be delivered, but they delivered only 2 lakhs houses so far. And that is because of the paucity of funds, and that is being explained to people, but then there is a grouse among those who have not benefited. But with regard to Raitu Bandhu, 93% of the farmers have only 2.5 to 3 acres of land holding, and they are the tillers themselves. And these people sitting in Dubai and US are all having more than 10 acres of land holding, and though they form part of only 2.5% of the entire farming community in Telangana. This is the second thing which I wanted to clarify. And the third thing with regard to the BJP's role in the current elections. As Manu was rightly pointing it out, they have grown to 20% in the parliament elections, but BJP's surge and fall have been flashes in the pan. They actually are very intermittent. It is like, BJP's growth is like an intermittent fasting. So in 2018, they won only 1 seat in Telangana. And after that, they won 2 by-elections because of the individual competency and popularity of the candidates who migrated from the BRS into the BJP. And in the GHMC elections, they have put up a good fight and won about 48 seats. But then that is because of the reasons bungling by the BRS government in the last minute due to some 10,000 rupees compensation that was to be given to people who are affected by rain hit areas. And the corporators and people in between have swindled that money. So BJP has gained to that extent, but then after that, BJP has the thought that it is gained so powerful, grown so powerful, and contested an election in Munugod by-election. They actually made the sitting Congress MLA resign and then contest the seat on behalf of the BJP. And they wanted to implement this mechanism across the state once the Munugod election is won. But then Munugod, they have faced a humiliating defeat, though not with a huge margin. The margin was only 10,000 votes. But then Amit Shah and all powerful people from BJP have focused on that constituency, the small constituency, and BRS has utilized all its well-oiled machinery and could successfully counter the BJP. So ever since the Munugodu election they lost, as Sudhir was pointing out, they lost the steam totally. So, but then, as he said just now, I'm sorry to endorse whatever he is saying, but yeah, since at least Somashekar and Sudhir are my colleagues for several decades, I have to go with them. And BJP is going to be very strong in northern Adilabad, northern Telangana. There is Adilabad, old Adilabad district, and also in some pockets of Nizamabad. And how much of the vote they would cut into is one thing. If the BJP wins 15 seats, then the assembly would be throwing up a hung house. In such case, will the BJP join hands with the BRS or the Congress? They are all, diametrically opposite, ideologically divided parties. So maybe I expect that.
BJP joining hands with the Congress seems to be a far fetch here.
Yeah. So in such case, what I think is some MLAs from the BJP and some MLAs from the Congress would cross over to KCR, because KCR has successfully implemented this floor crossing model without affecting their membership in the legislative assemblies. And he even made a.
I love your confidence. I love your confidence, Mr. Sekhar. I love your absolute in BRS winning despite all kinds of challenges he faces this time. But let's see how that plays out. But Manu, let me just come to you since we're on the topic of BJP. Let me also bring in Owaisi here, because no talk about Telangana and Hyderabad constituencies seats can be complete without Owaisi's presence and his AIMIM. Tell me, how much of a vote cutter will BJP actually be as also Owaisi? Because Owaisi actually is not going to be playing that much of a role, because I think they are contesting from just those 7-8 assembly segments, isn't it?
Well, talking about AIMIM first, the party is limited to its usual pocket boroughs, and it does well there. There could be a swing of 1 or 2 seats here and there because of local factors, or it could be perhaps their perceived, let's say, perceived political stance, which may or may not be, opposed to the BJP, to the likes of their electorate. So that could be there, but largely speaking, their performance would be in line with the past. That's what we observed prior to Model Code of Conduct. Now, coming to the question of BJP. Now, BJP has a very interesting history, at least in what was back then joint Andhra, and now, it's split into 2 states. So the BJP, unlike in Karnataka, in Andhra has used itself as a strategic, player that would seek to influence the regional players to basically undercut the Congress lead, in this area, because this has traditionally been a very strong performance zone for Congress since independence. So, for example, BJP very strategically gave up on the head start it had got in the 90s, and kind of let TDP, grow at its expense. So for the voters, if you go and ask, there is that doubt that a vote for the BJP may not necessarily be a vote against those in power. And a vote to the Congress would definitely be, an anti-incumbency vote. So there is a difference here, that the perceived distance between the BJP and the BRS is not very huge. If the stars align and things come up, obviously the distance to traverse, politically speaking, for the BJP to join BRS or have some kind of an alliance is a pretty okayish one. They can do that. And I think from that perspective also it follows, should the BJP perform really well, yes, it would be in a kingmaker's position. But then it is this very political logic which is understood by, I must say that Indian electorate, particularly, I would say the in Andhra and Telangana, they are very astute and they also get the, sort of zeitgeist which is going around. So all of it will depend upon the momentum, that kind of follows in the run up to the election. Whether people are perceiving this, whether they are voting along this, or, for them, it's just like, so the kind of intensity of opposition towards the incumbents will decide in some measure what BJP will end up doing. And from that will follow, what the post-election scenario would look like.
All right. TS, I just want to take last thoughts from you. And since we are on this topic about BJP and the role that they intend to play, and KCR so far has maintained an equal distance, visibly, from the BJP and the Congress so far. Recently, Owaisi spoke about a third front and said that he hopes that KCR will lead that third front. Will another victory in Telangana boost KCR's third front push?
Well, Owaisi has been batting for KCR for many years now. He has been saying that he should be the one who should be leading the third front, the alliance against the BJP, for more reasons than one. One, of course, that he's in terms of finances, he has the funds at his disposal. Number two, he, despite being a South Indian politician, he's very fluent in Hindi. So he believes that KCR has the credentials to take on the BJP in that sense. But the BJP itself, I see it as playing a very interesting kind of a game out here in Telangana. For one, are you able to hear me?
Yes, I am.
Okay, the picture had frozen. Okay, sorry. So I see that the BJP is playing a very interesting kind of game. One, if it gets sufficient number of seats, and if both the BRS and the Congress find themselves short of the magical figure, the BJP will have a role to play. But either way, let's assume that the BRS comes to power with a very slender majority. The BJP knows that it will always be on tenterhooks, unless, of course, KCR manages to break the Congress like he did in 2014 and post 2018. Also, remember that there is the Enforcement Directorate ongoing case against Kavita. So that's again a sword which is hanging on the family of KCR's family, so to speak, and the BJP can always use that against it. On the flip side, if the Congress comes to power and the BRS finds itself not doing very well, and this is this may sound a little outlandish at this point in time, but I am just taking a cue from what the BJP did to the Janata Dal Secular in Karnataka, where it has completely, it gobbled it up. Now it's part of the NDA after having fought the elections against the BJP government in Karnataka in the month of April, May. So the future of BRS depends on how well it actually does in this election. So it's not just a very important election for the Congress. I would say it's an important election for the BRS. For the sake of regional parties in this country, it's very important for the BRS to do reasonably well so that it does not go the way of the Janata Dal Secular. I know it's a little far-fetched, but yes, seeing how politics in India has played out, seeing what is the situation of a party like the Telugu Desam now after having ruled United Andhra Pradesh for so many years, I really rule nothing out in today's day and age.
No, nobody will rule anything out in today's politics. You're right there. But let me just end with one last question, and I want to sort of talk about. You spoke about that BRS having, he's contesting from 2 seats this time. He's contesting from his Gajwal
Which way?
seat, where he's normally contesting from. He's also contesting from Kamareddy. Is this a sign? Would you call this, you said this is an important election for the BRS. Sorry, Sudhir said that, and that is an important election for the BRS. I want to come to you, Manu, for your closing thoughts on whether or not this contesting from two seats is a sign of nervousness, or maybe he's just doing it to establish and to sort of his thing that he can win from both places.
Well, there could be two push factors behind any politician, a senior politician contesting from two seats. The first is obviously, that somebody is nervous or they, worried about whether they will get through in either of the seats. The other reason is that maybe they are trying to establish or carry the party with them, because they are popular, they have some weight, so they are trying to carry party with them in that region or in that district or area. Now, which one of the two is applicable in this case? I believe that perhaps it's the second. I mean, all said and done, it won't be very hard for him to carry his seat. But then again, you can't rule anything out in politics, as has been said on the show. However, looking at it from a very neutral perspective and just the numbers alone, I believe it's the case of trying to carry two regions or two places within the state.
All right. So, can I just come to Mr. Somasekar for his last comments, because we've not spoken much to him. Mr. Somasekar, your views on how this is going to play out come December 3rd.
Yeah, as I was saying, I think this is a most exciting election, and the most important factors, I think, which the KCR government will be facing is, one, the anti-incumbency, two, the consolidation of all those who fought for the Telangana agitation, the youth, the disgruntled people, and all the intellectual civil society. All these, if they consolidate and, vote against the ruling dispensation, I think it will become a very difficult task for him. The second thing, which I wanted to state is the BJP has, lost steam on its own. And as I see, with an eye on the 2024 elections, the party, the center, and the BRS have had an understanding which will ensure that both of them would like to stop the Congress, but will be a friendly match between both these parties, and that in a way might also impact on their own chances. The third thing is the youth, are a disgruntled lot, in the sense that the delivery of promises by the PRS government in terms of jobs has not been satisfactory. And although, to be fair, the government has created a lot of jobs in the IT and in some of the industries in urban areas, but the real Telangana youth has not been able to derive benefits. Therefore, they are, I think, definitely against this government. So, in the last run-up, in the last few days, the ability of the government to assuage their feelings by the promises that they have made will play an important part. And finally, I think the elections have boiled down to the welfare promises and welfare measures that the contestants are offering, both the Congress and the BRS. Whoever gives more perhaps will have the advantage, but the vote will be on whether the BRS government has delivered adequately and will be able to do it in future without becoming authoritarian and also taking the electorate for granted. In that sense, the bottom line of what is there in the election for us will be a major factor which will be driving the electorate this time. And I am sure, I think manifestos have promised more than the sky, and whichever party has by their past action or by their performance giving confidence to the electorate will see through.
But that's exactly what the Congress is saying, that given a chance, because both, as you said, all parties are promising the sky, but that's what the other parties will say, that you've given BRS a chance for 10 years. Now give us a chance and we will also deliver in it. That's the flip side of the welfareism that everybody has promised, and with BRS having delivered whatever he's delivered, not taking away at all from what he's delivered so far. But how we are. The more we have, the more we want, and there will always be some corners which are left, which need to be nipped in bud. But thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for this conversation, and thank you everyone for your viewpoints and your quick takes on the Telangana elections. We of course will wait to see how it pans out on December 3rd. Thank you so much for watching, viewers. Stay tuned to Hindustan Times.